it's felt like that. You know, the relation, the tribe belonging, the ritual celebration, this kind of the aesthetics. We are here. If you look around us, we saw a lot of aesthetics. And for example, this sacred geometry. 2 years ago, shamanism. 4 years ago, it was feminine. We have always this kind of aesthetics with some connection with spiritual. I think it's very clear. I don't know if everyone feel these kind of aesthetics like spiritual things, but some people do. Some people do. For example, from all the interviews I have done, I marked some sentences. I thought they are interesting because when I ask for how is your experience in the dance floor? What do you feel in the dance floor? What do you feel when you dance? What do you feel about Psytrance? It's a spiritual thing. Why are you going to the parties? You want to fun, you want to dance, you want to have a spiritual experience. What are you looking for? For example, we have some interesting answers. Being it on the dance floor, it's an active meditation. For example, dance culture can be a techno-pagan of a more refined spiritual feeling, abstract and undefinable Zen-like. Some strong sentences, but I think the strong sentences are connected with the complexity of the thematic too. For example, it's normal for people to live spiritual experience in the dance floor. Songs are like mantras. We just have to pray with our bodies. This one is deep. I think it's very subjective, first of all, because I also have answers like, no, I don't think it's spiritual. I just go to party. I don't see nothing spiritual there. And it was a sample, because we can't generalize the answers, but it's a sample, and we can have our own conclusions. Another interesting thing, some people I interview told that for example, when I ask what are the DJs that you like more, what kind of trance do you like more, and lots of people told me that I prefer the spiritual ones. And I told, what is the spiritual ones? And then some people start, the album of the Gogil, the name is Spiritual Trance. It's very spiritual. Okay, let's see what it is. And then I started to do some research about the names of the artists, the name of the albums and the tracks, and verify the incidence of the word spiritual or religion, and so on. Then just a few examples. For example, our friend Gil, for example, this spiritual trance, this psychedelic various artists compilation, spiritual beings, transcendence, spiritual energy. For example, this album, spiritual level, spiritual connection, la danza espiritual. This one, search for the divine, speaking to God, the only way to fly. This reference very strong to the spirituality. For even this one. Okay,
this is one of my favorites.
I have it all. Religious experience. So it can be an abstract concept, but in fact there are a lot of artists that recurs to this theme to name their works. For example, just to close, this one I don't know if you remember. Here we had a sentence. Sounds like I like mantras. You just have to pray with our bodies. And then I asked the person who told me that, what do you mean? And then he sent me a song, and he said, listen, and then we talk. And he sent me. I don't know if you know this Ovnimon. Maybe some of you know it. And there is a song of Ovnimon called Galactic Mantra. Yeah. For this person, for this guy, he said, it's my mantra. I hear it every day, and it's like a prayer to me. Okay, it's heavy, yeah. But I think it's fun to understand and to see how spiritual this kind of mantra can be understood. I don't know how to put this on play.
Can you put it, please? I am infinite. I am the channel. I am expanding. Okay. I am psychedelic. I am vibration. I am timeless.
I am light. I am infinite. I am the channel. I am expanding. I am psychedelic. I am vibration. I am timeless. I am unity. I am activated. I am resonant. I am galactic. I am radiant. I am defined. I am electric. I am lunar. I am magnetic. I am planetary. I am balanced. I am organized. I am connected. I am inspired. I am in harmony. I am integrity. I am perfect. I am manifestation. I am dissolving. I am releasing. I am liberating. I am dedicated. I am universalized, enduring, and transcendent mantra. I am being. I am communicating. I am spirit. I am breathing. I am cosmic. I am essence. I am power. I am action. I am dreaming. I am abundance. I am intuition. I am God. I am extreme. I am internal and external. I am flowering. I am clocking.
Okay, it's just an example. Okay, then I leave you a question about some I don't know if you already heard about Graham St. John. Is one of our greatest academics who study this field. In his book Rave Culture and Religion, he was the first research to explore, as far as I know, this spiritual side of Psytrance. And it's one of the citations. He says, is rave is simply about the dissipation of utopian energy into the void, or does the idealism catalyze spillover into a transformed ordinary life? And I'm still looking for the answer, and I hope you can help me to find it. Thank you.
Thank you, Emilia. It really looks like you had fun asking all these questions and finding all these answers. I confirm in the original theory that there's something spiritual about Psytrance. I guess also what we were saying before, Psytrance, maybe more than urban club culture, is a lineage of electronic music that has a more definite spiritual influence since its very beginning, with the full moon parties in Goa, and this connection also with Indian spirituality, and also a more conscious use of certain substances and not others. So thank you for showing again what this is about. And so now, Francois.
How much time?
So a few minutes.
Like 5 minutes?
Less, 5.
4.5.
4.5.
5.5.
So I would like to know also, what is this connection between the spiritual aspect of clubbing or dance culture and the political aspect?
There are many connections to what you say and to what you say, and what you are showing about the collective organization movements at the very seed of what I'm trying to do, like at the core of what I'm trying, why I came to politics, is this kind of experience, like to disembody and see how the crowd is like just moving and being one or not one, because most of the time we are not one, but sometimes we get to be one, and that's the thing which interests me. And about I think it's a good question to ask to people who used to dance, like what their favorite DJ. So I'm going to tell you. Yeah, sorry. I'm going to tell you about my favorite DJ, because it is the best way, I think, to tell you what I want to talk about. Does anybody here knows the Black Madonna DJ?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does anybody know about Black Madonna? I see 1, 2, 3. Okay, quite a few.
She's around. She's one of the amazingest DJ I've ever heard, the best DJ I've ever heard in my life. And she's like embodying something, keeping something like her name, Black Madonna. She plays, she refers to a Christian directly to, like she makes connection all the time between practice of the Christian religion and the way she mixed. She's a DJ and she has this fantastic heart. She plays mainly house, techno, classic with disco classic. She has this way she can play industrial techno together with ghetto house with like gospels and disco, screaming joy, love, like disco is able to do. And she has this ability to bring the people together. I mean, she completely embodies the music that she's playing, and she's an artist of like, she's here right now. She's singing the song at the same time that she's playing them. Like the dance floor becomes a theater. It becomes a theater with her. It's completely different. Like she says things. She brings the lyrics of house and disco mainly to real political meanings, and that's quite hard. And one of the best, one of the most famous song of house music is this replay of Martin Luther King classic. And so what I want to talk about, I gave this example of Black Madonna because she makes a way to show, like, and that's the point. She always has a T-shirt on, and on this T-shirt is written "Negative vibes only." And she returns all the time, like she's the most joyful DJ you can imagine, but at the same time she wears the negative vibes only, because she's not like...
Negative vibes only. That's what the T-shirt says.
And I think and that's really club culture, about what club culture is also about. Club culture is not positivist, club culture is also something negative, dark, and that's a very important part of dance music culture. And that brings us, when we talk about spirituality, I want to talk about war and peace. There is no peace without war, there is no war without peace, and we can't say only we want peace. We need to say there is some wars to hold. We need to defend nature. We need to fight against the big capitalist master, and this is deeply linked to ecology as a political activism. Like we need to find a way to see that on the dance floor you're building bridge between people, and you learn new ways how to relate to each other. And this is where you can find creativity in collective building, because being a political activist on the fields, if you want to engage on the fields, you need to know how to make a collective auto-organization which is horizontal, and try to apply what we want to change in this world. That is, and it's always a big problem, because at the same time we need to be efficient on the field, but at the same time we don't want to be too efficient, because if we are too efficient, we lose the point.
So this is an important point. I would like to repeat it. Francois is saying that by that festival culture or rave culture, party culture can be interesting because it teaches us, it's like a training ground to learn how to self-organize. And this is a training that then we would learn if we move on to activism, because then we would already know how to set the basis of self-organization from a logistical perspective, from an interpersonal perspective.
Exactly. I wouldn't put it better if you said exactly what I wanted to say. And I wanted just to talk about one word. The word pharmakon in Greek means pharmakon, like from pharmacy, pharmacology. It means at the same time healing and remedy. And when we think that organizing...
Poison and remedy.
And when we think that organizing party is a way to put the condition together so that some kind of spiritual enlightenment happens, we need to first think about the economy, about the collective organization that sustains, that makes possible this spiritual moment to advance. And the question is, which compromise do you make in order to make this happen? And that's a technology. Organizing party, like Boom, is a big machine, and we have to think it also as a collective machine. And so we have to think that like pharmakon. Why I do say that, because Plato, the philosopher, says that technique is a pharmakon, but we can't translate it, because when he says it, you don't know if he says it, if it it is a remedy or if it is a poison. So if we see party organization as a way to, I lose my words, if we see party organization as an art, as a technique, we need to focus and to talk together and to listen to each other to understand how we are making this happen right now. Because if we lose this point, we lose the contact with the, like, I think there is a lot of spiritual part, big part of spiritual in dance, club dance music. House music is gospel. Techno music is some kind of like machine,
dead machine.
Yeah. And don't forget also the Black Atlantic, the whole decolonization movement, like the Black underground resistance, where people like Black Bloc label, music label, running party like a Black Bloc, like a real like confrontating capitalism. So that I want to say is, and I could talk more, and I wanted to talk about ecology and about the way we can learn, like that's what you said. But I would just say at the end that I want people not to forget that dancing, doing party, organizing, being in the party world should be always connected to, not only concern to ecological issue and fights against capitalism, but it should be made together. We are one, so we all have to defend the nature which is being destroyed day after day everywhere on Earth. And I think that we need the power, the collective power that we find on the dance floor, because when we are fighting against, for example, I came also mainly here to talk about, like with other friends who are here, and we are doing a workshop tomorrow afternoon about that in NGO Django.
He's doing a workshop tomorrow in the NGO Django about his fight and his whole collective fight. He comes with a group of people against power plants in France.
Fighting against precisely a nuclear bin, a big project of nuclear bin, where the French state wants to bury nuclear waste forever, like 500 meters underground. And this is highly spiritual to confront to this, but we are completely alone. The police is doing repression, and we are under wire all the time, and it's really difficult even to make it here. It was difficult, like just, but needed. That's the moment, like I can breathe a little bit, meet people I can talk with, and have another point of view, and talk to you and share with you. Like, don't you think that it is a spiritual thing to fight against an international mafia organizing because it is energy, but it is also the bone, and that there is a place where they want to put all the waste which will stay forever. Like, this is too late. Fukushima, Chernobyl, it happened. And I deeply need these vibes we can find on the dance floor, and I think we have to learn from each other. Activists, political activists, and party activists or party organizers have to talk together and organize things together, because otherwise we will be too weak from both sides. We will be eaten by capitalism.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we've heard from our panelists about many different perspectives, the revitalization of ancient pagan rituals with the new mix of modern technology and electronic music. We've heard about the shamanic, deep dimension of other kinds of club scenes that are not so officially related to spirituality, but where we can find also how the crowd can come together in ways that is deeply shamanic, can be transformatory, and can reveal aspects seen from above that when you are in the dance itself you might not be aware of. And we have seen with Emilia the possibility of Psytrance to be maybe one of the most explicitly spiritual electronic music movements. And then we have seen with Francois the importance of connecting festival and club culture with activism.
Resistance.
And resistance. So I would like to know now from you if you have some questions to them. And I know here we have Mare, that is like the underground panelist, the unofficial panelist. I think he has something to say again on Psytrance.
Hi everyone. I was invited to Boom as well to speak here and got a free ticket. Hooray for that.
Mare, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, because Psytrance is my religion, and in 2009 I set up a website called www.psytranceinmyreligion.com, because It is, well, I suppose a social experiment, but the concept behind the website is crowdsourced enlightenment, and the fact that if enough of us come together and say that Psytrance is our religion, it will become a religion. And if it becomes a religion and registers as such in various countries around the world, then we can go to our governments and say, look, we're doing psychedelic drugs for religious reasons, so therefore legalize them. And therefore, it's a reality hack, it's a way of putting pressure on the government to legalize psychedelics. But above and beyond that, it's a religion for me because I believe in the holographic universe. I believe we live in a holographic universe. I believe that our consciousness is also a holographic construct, and that means reality is an interference pattern created by the holographic projection of the universe meeting that of your consciousness. I also believe that DMT gives you access to the holographic nature of reality through the pineal gland and the fact that it is your third eye. And believe me, the shit I've seen on DMT, that just is the experiential proof of that fact. And that is the core belief of the religion. Belief in the holographic universe. And what's the core property of a hologram? The whole within the part. And that means we are one, literally. We have the universe within us. And that's what the mystics have been saying for fucking years and years and years and millennia. And that's what samadhi states of consciousness and DMT give you access to, as far as I'm concerned, and it's a megatonnage download of information, and it's like a software upgrade, wetware upgrade, let's say, to your consciousness. That's what I believe.
Thank you very much. You made your point. So
anyway, thank you.
The holographic universe is the core of the belief of the
I've got
religion
flyers
of
as well.
Psytrance.
I have flyers. So if you want.
Thank you, Mare. And he has flyers, he has a website. If you're interested, please contact him. Any other questions?
So thank you all for sharing your perspectives on what we're doing here. I'm also very interested in the ritualistic aspects of these festivals from a cultural anthropological perspective. And I have a question for you, Bogomir, because I'm really interested in the dynamic relationship between dance floor and the festival, especially between the dance floor experience and the culture that derives from this experience. So maybe you have some thoughts about the relationship of the structure on the dance floor and the structure on the festival.
The difference between the clubs and the festivals? Sorry. Difference between clubs and...
No, not the difference, but how does the structure on the dance floor, which you're pretty familiar with, manifests itself maybe in the structure of the festival, or how?
It's a little bit like when you come to somebody's home, the way that they host you is the way how you position yourself in that house for the period of time. So I don't know, I'm gonna take an example of what I personally can't stand is the introduction of lockers in clubs, and then this kind of chip knips cards, in Netherlands there is pretty much of it, where actually from the moment you enter you're just becoming this slot machine. So it's clearly telling you that you're entering a capitalist model in which you will be constantly reminded that you need to consume, and once your card is empty you can't achieve these certain pleasures or get drinks. So this would be like you come to somebody's house and every time you want to open the fridge you need to put your necklace and beep 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 beep. So it's clearly you're entering a system that is not very kind or welcoming you in a way. So it is also against the way how I'm raised, so it is against the values that I am. So I'm not on my own ground. So I think I think we're all very much able to scan very fast in what kind of environments we're entering, and we shouldn't be scared of judging it just because others are doing it. We can say it loud, hey, fuck off, this system does not suit me. And when a lot of people say this, then these clubs get closed. But the problem is that there was this whole generational gap of accepting everything and sort of not having critical point, which is now finally over. So I'm talking about my generation in Western Europe, 1983. till like 90s, that was just very much like, you know, you ask somebody what track do they want to hear, they're like, oh, play anything, I listen everything, you know. There was no criticism, and finally it seems like it's coming back. So yeah, you know, like I think you can very fast like, and you know, it's not that all music festivals have like that very different agenda that some clubs, and it's not that all clubs are bad. So as I said, it's an agreement of a group of people how they're gonna curate the crowd. And it is an artistic construct, like, you know, we behave here in a way that this architecture is asking us, the carpet, there's clearly certain elements that makes us act in a certain way. We left our shoes at the entrance, there's just a sign on the side, so you learn very fast. So it is like, this is why I'm comparing it. I'm coming from an art background, and I really see the resemblance of appropriation of artistic practices in order to actually very fast teach you and translate some kind of idea. So it also comes to drugs, like, you know, like we never get instructions how to use them, we just go for it. And it takes like 5-6 years till you realize what is your body chemicals like, how do you really function, what is your dance on ketamine, can you dance, is it like, you know, like there's like this whole kind of taboo aspect that like you just sort of jump into it, instead of actually that it's somehow maybe from an early phase or a little bit introduced differently. Yeah? So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and it really differs itself in countries and places, and luckily it's changing. So it's not nothing is forever. It's like a temporary. This is temporary. It might not exist next year. You know, like you don't know. Like it's sort of nothing is really taken for granted. And it shouldn't be taken for granted. And some things should just be closed when it's time. And I'm referring in this case to Berghain actually, because I'm quite critical toward it in the last 2 years actually. So yeah, there's a moment of shutting down and letting go, which is also a process of learning. Yeah.
Thank you, Bogomil. Shall we go with the last question?
Hi, and thank you everyone for your time. So I sort of came in towards the end of this, but I liked what some of the panelists, the discussion about sort of, you know, how activism fits into club culture and festival culture, and you know, in certain anti-capitalist organizing. And you know, I guess one thing that always for me fits in with anti-capitalist organizing is, you know, what does the future look like? What does a post-capitalist future, utopia, if you will, or at least the better world than now look like? And I guess my question to the panelists is, what does club culture, festival culture right now, which is, whether we like it or not, you know, highly monetized, highly capitalized, highly hierarchical, what does that look like in the future? What is, I guess, sort of like the, you know, creative idea to what the future looks like, you know, once these systems are dismantled or moved forward from it?
Maybe a few words from everyone, just some words. Like, what could the future look like? A more like utopian, positive, evolutionary version of the future.
I've seen club and festival culture alter a lot the past, nearly 10 years in the Netherlands, and an aspect that has become very important, and I'm convinced it will become more important in the future, is the crowdsource element. That there is no top-down structure, and the people create their own space and their own events, and there might be a smaller scale, but there will be more influence from the people themselves, and no longer the old structures that will feed you something. You will decide what you're going to eat yourself. That's what I think.
Yeah, actually Netherlands is an interesting example, because there's like 300 registered festivals through the year, and tickets are always sold out. So for me, what's interesting is this aspect of when do crowds become popular, because, you know, this sort of, if you think of commercial brands, everything that was sold to us in the past was, you have a choice, you make the difference, yes, you can do it. It was always about one. It was about you making a step. And now it's all about we can do it. Yes, we can change. And I think it's reflecting a lot on the present political environment. And if you think also, if we follow the rise of music festivals in Netherlands, let's speak because that's the ground where I'm based, they became popular in last 7-8 years, and a lot actually in last 4 or 5 years. Like Amsterdam Dance Event, which actually unites all these parties, like brings in 400,000 people in like just 4 days, which of course has economy value. But for me, what's more interesting is why do these people want to spend this money now on being one dot in 1,000 other dots? So Canetti wrote in his book Crowds and Power, and it's actually a really interesting statement. It's an interesting thought that we need crowds when we fear something, but once we are in this crowd, we fear what this crowd has potential to do. So I think that festivals and clubs in some cases are also a way of training the power of a collective body that in times of emergency, when we speak about activism or any kind of act, can be activated. So yeah, I mean, for me it's more the question of when do we need 300 festivals in 1 year? Why do we need 300 festivals and why they're all sold out? Is it a sign of prosperity or is it a sign of individual crisis? Yeah. So,
yeah. Talking about activism, since we are in boom, I think here we can find several forms of activism. For example, if we think that in 20 years ago the first boom has 300 people, I don't know,
3,000.
Yeah, 3,000. And now 40,000?
I don't know.
Who knows? This reality is not an isolated reality anymore. This is a global thing, and I think that this festival can be a proof of it, because here we can find a lot of forms of activism, and I think the most of people here are aware of it, and I think that is a good start, and I think you can believe that in the future. All these kind of new directions of the activism can really make a change, I think.
Thank you. What about you, Francois? What's a positive version of the future of clubbing and festival culture?
Don't know if I have a positive vision.
I'm interested to see what you're gonna say.
I am quite pessimistic about the situation actually in the whole world, and I believe like we can all see like planet being destroyed, global surveillance really happening, big data, transhumanism, all the direction we are mainly taking on an industrial level is very scary. But if I have to envision something, I would say that what inspires me as really today is not dance music, but is what is happening in Chiapas in Mexico and what is happening in Kurdistan, in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. There people have been partly or for Kurdistan and as a whole for the region of Chiapas in Mexico to build a real ecological society. They made life to something some would call social ecology, that is community of communes organized in the belief that we can't make democracy. Democracy can only exist when it is face to face. Direct democracy is the only democracy. There is no representativity possible if you want to make democracy. And this implies that we can't organize as a group, as a collective, as a commune, with more than 300, 400, 500, this scale of people. Over than that, we start verticality, we start authority is coming back, patriarchy is coming back. So the only way to build what we want to build, ecology, to know how to be interdependent, to be together, is to refound the possibility that everybody, because that's what one of the main principles of social ecology, which has been theorized by an anarchist from US, Murray Bookchin. He's a philosopher, an activist from the US. And the main thing is to say that we won't make ecology if we won't make it with everybody. And we can't miss people on our way. We have to understand that they are migrants, that they are poor people, and we can't go too fast. Chiapas revolution is mainly about organizing life at the rhythm of the kids. But that's not. But they are armed and they use Kalashnikov and they are masked and they make war against the Mexican state since dozens of years. So that's what inspires me. And dance is everywhere. They practice traditional dance, rhythm, collective, sacred geometry, everything you can. They have the most deep spirituality because at the same time they are the fucking guerrilla.
So thank you very much, everyone, also for this positive vision of the future with a society that is based on respect of nature and founded also on dance and celebration. And so thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you very much for getting this download of theory, now that you're ready also to get a download of practice probably over there. Thank you, and the program is going to go on with a documentary on the Bufo Alvarius. I hope you stay with us, and thank you again, Isis, Bogomir, Emilia, and Francois. Thank you.